Lionsgate Media Group podcast. I'm Olivia Richards.
And I'm Kyle Tremblay.
And we're from showratings.tv, where you can rate and review all your favorite shows, including the new series we're talking about today.
Oh, hold on. I was playing a cell phone game in church. Let me look at my phone. Oh, Selfie.
So basically, you just became the main character of the show. So you're like illustrating the point.
I am so like her in every way.
This is great. So ABC gave the description of the show. So social media superstar Eliza Dooley, Karen Gillian, has 263,000 followers who hang on her every post, tweet, and selfie. But after a workplace mishap goes viral, she quickly realizes that being Insta-famous isn't all it's cracked up to be, and being friended is not the same as having actual friends. She enlists co-worker and marketing guru Henry, John Cho, to rebrand her self-obsessed reputation and teach her how to connect with people in the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not... Okay, I know what I thought about this show, but I am very curious what you thought about this show.
That was going to be like my first question, because obviously I'm watching this as a 22-year-old woman,
Yes.
so I'm going to have like a little bit of a different perspective. But I was going to ask, how do you feel about the modern adaptation of, obviously this is based off of My Fair Lady, which I'm a huge fan of, so I was kind of excited to see how they were going to take that premise and update it into like our modern technological world. And I thought they did a really good job. Like, I think they modernized it for the audience that they're trying to sell it to. And in that respect, I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm watching this just as a TV show. I don't have enough familiarity with My Fair Lady to really be. I know that that's heresy around these parts, but I don't have enough familiarity with that to make any kind of judgments. I'm just watching this as a single cam comedy on ABC. This stars two people who I really like, and has a name that I definitely don't like. But I will say this. I thought it was going to be worse. That's my positive spin take. I was expecting Selfie to be an absolute train wreck. Like, to the degree that like Mixology was, or something like that.
Yeah.
This was not that. And in fact, if someone liked Selfie, I would not hold it against them necessarily. I can see a path to liking this show. and I do think that this pilot did some things well.
I definitely think so, because I mean, I remember when we talked about it back in the summer, and both of us sort of like had agreed that we were like had a lot of reservations about it, and I think we kind of agreed that it could go either way. And I think when I was watching the pilot, it snuck up on me, because when I first started watching, and we're just watching her on the airplane, I was like, okay, this could be really bad.
Yeah,
like this could be really not good. But then like as the pilot went on, I actually started to get like really attached to what they did with the classic Eliza Doolittle character. And obviously they gave her the new name, but I think they kept like the general idea of her character, of her just needing to sort of be like refined, and her needing to make changes in her life because she's still like a little bit rough around the edges. Less in a way that they did with the original, where she sort of is like in a lower socioeconomic class and she's working with Henry Higgins, who like needs to make her into a proper lady. But the fact that she is sort of like, I don't want to say trashy, but yeah, she is very like kind of shallow and narcissistic, but for not like the reason you would expect. I think if they just made her into a character who was like narcissistic and shallow just because that's the sort of person she is, it would have been different. But I like that they made it because she's insecure about herself. Yeah.
How much of your enjoyment of this pilot was based on your clear love of My Fair Lady?
It's like 95%.
Okay, that's what I'm getting here.
That's it.
Yeah. Because... all right, I have to go through my main issue with this, which is really an issue with the writing, not the premise or the acting. I feel like this is a show largely about technology in 2014 that absolutely loathes technology in 2014 and doesn't even have a cursory understanding of like a real understanding of how people actually interact. Like, this to me feels like a show about Twitter that was written by someone who doesn't have a Twitter account. That's my sort of figurative sense of what this is that the writing doesn't click for me. Like, all the modern references, all the like name checks of social media services, all of that rang so to me. Like just the way it was being used, and the way people were talking, and it didn't seem to be representative of someone who has a real understanding of social media in 2014, which is problematic because the entire show is about a woman who was obsessed with social media in 2014. And so that was my main problem. And then my second problem is I feel like the show not only doesn't understand social media, but it actively hates social media and thinks badly of it, and therefore the show itself judged the lead female, the Karen Gillan character, it judged her too harshly, and I would have liked it to have pulled back its portrayal of her a little bit and made her a little bit less, especially at the start, like you said, a little bit less hateable. I felt like the show itself was condemning her to a degree that was not doing service to the story. And so those were my thoughts.
No, I definitely think so because I couldn't tell whether like they were trying to kind of give off her character as being very, very strong like at first, because obviously we have to see her make this transformation in the amount of episodes that were being given this season. So like, I think for the amount of time they have to tell this story, they might have been going for like giving her like a very strong negative vibe, but
Mm-hmm.
then it's also they're doing the same thing to Henry. Like both of them are very, very polarized in how, and I could see that that kind of reads off as being kind of iffy writing.
But I feel like, and maybe I am judging this wrong because I identify much more with Henry, despite the bit that I did at the top of this podcast. I obviously am more of a Henry than a whatever her name is. I call her Selfie because it seems to make sense to me.
That's her name.
Yeah, Henry and Selfie, what a couple. Um, but I felt like the show was much kinder to him. And to me, for this show to work, the premise needs it. I mean, the premise they're going for obviously is that he is ostensibly helping her and sort of her life coach, but in reality, she is helping him because he every bit as much as he's helping her because he needs to, as much as she needs to disengage with this stuff, he needs to engage a bit more. But at the same time, I felt like the show, and maybe it's just how likable John Cho is. Um, but I felt like he was presented as much more grounded, and that his sort of shortcomings, like, oh, he didn't have a date for the wedding, that's a little bit sad, but she ruined the wedding by playing a game in the middle of it. Like, those aren't equivalent. Those aren't the equivalent things, right? Like, she is much worse than he is in this pilot, and that's, I think, the problem that I had.
I could definitely see that. I think the one thing that they did really well in that regard is when they have the conversation about how she was literally like playing a game in the middle of someone's wedding
Yes.
to cover up the fact that she was having literally they used the word feels.
Feel,
So that
of
was
course.
good. That happened. So
Selfie feels.
selfie feels. But like when she calls him out, like as he's calling her
Yes.
out for being shallow and narcissistic and like all of her character flaws, she also calls him out as being, very stuffy and being very closed-minded and being very like condescending. Because I mean that is Henry Higgins' character. Like if you know the original, like he's
Nope.
constantly talking down to her. As she's like trying to make progress, but like he is expecting a lot of change from her too fast. Like when she fails to meet his expectations, he gets frustrated, and that's when he starts talking down to her. And I want to see her kind of standing up for herself more as her self-esteem builds through working with him.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and I did like that scene, the sort of happy ending that every single sitcom this season has, where every sitcom this season basically is characters behave monstrously for 18 minutes, and then there's 4 minutes where they put on like soft music, and then they all hug, and everything's good. Like that's every sitcom this season, but
Right? Yeah.
but um, I did like that ending. I liked what you said, how she confronted him directly about it. What I wish is that she wouldn't have ruined a wedding. Like that's if she had just done something small, like that would have maybe only annoyed him. And then we could have gotten the thing where maybe he is asking too much for her, but he is not asking too much of her if he's asking her not to play video games at a wedding. Like that is something that a human monster does. Like you're sitting there for like a short wedding, and I mean, I know she explains it with the feels and all, but like she starts playing cell phone games. Like that's a terrible thing to do. Like that's a that's a horrible thing. Like he is right to be angry at her about that. If
No, exactly. That's what I was talking about, was sort of like the extreme representations of the
yeah,
characters. Like they take like what you see in the original and they play it up for the pilot. So they like knock it up to like that next level where maybe it shouldn't be going
but
necessarily.
what does he do that is equivalent? Like what is his horrible sin in this pilot?
Nothing that
That's what I'm
equivalent.
saying.
Yeah.
Right? That she does things like her behavior on the airplane, and then the way she talks in his office when they first meet, and then the entire wedding scene are like things that the worst person in the universe would do. Like that is just awful, awful stuff. And he like, oh, he doesn't have a date. Like, like he is presented so sympathetically, and she is just thrown out and like garbage just to take all the beating. And like I feel like if this show is going to work, there needs to be a lot more balance in that relationship, and the audience needs to feel sympathetic for her and condemn him every once in a while, and that just was not the case in this pilot at all.
No, I definitely agree. It was like when I was rewatching it, because I watched it the
Oh,
first time, then I was like, I definitely want to just see one more time, because I was really actually intrigued by the chemistry between John Cho
yes.
and Karen Gillan, and I think that's why this worked. Like,
Hmm.
honestly, if they had gotten a different actress to play Eliza, I don't think it would have worked. Like, the way that she goes about portraying her, even though it's very hard to feel sympathetic from what they give us, like she
Yeah.
does give us enough, not just through the dialogue, but like through her body language and her mannerisms and just, the look in her eyes, that you can just see that she is a deeply insecure person who's using social media to kind of cover herself so you don't get to
Hmm.
know the real her. Like she uses the insane hair and makeup and outfits and just like that shallow front so that you don't get to know her.
Yes. And I agree. I thought their chemistry was the best part of this. I think that I think they're both terrific. And this could have, if we're going to talk about Manhattan Love Story here before too long in a future episode. And if the two leads of that show had been cast in Selfie would have been the worst show of the season, in my opinion.
Yes.
I think that the leads on the show, the casting on the show, to some degree salvages it. I think you liked it quite a bit more than I did. But
Definitely.
but that's understandable. Being apparently running a My Fair Lady like fan site. I
Oh,
totally get
I
it.
heard. I can't help myself.
Yeah. So do you give this one a thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm giving the Facebook thumbs up, like for that.
Oh, you're giving it a like. Good work. Way
Am.
to stick to your guns on that. I appreciate that. I'm giving it a thumbs down, so we're gonna split on this. But not a thumbs down with venom as I thought it would be. Like again, I am not holding it. There are some shows this season, and I just mentioned one not long ago, that if someone liked them, I would think less of them. Selfie is not one of those shows. I get it. I like parts of it. I don't think it works overall, but that's okay. Reasonable minds can disagree.
Yes. I was waiting for this to happen. This is good.
This is good. Yeah, we can't agree on everything. Okay, so that wraps up the ShowRatings.tv Pilot Roundtable. You can rate and review all your favorite shows at www.showratings.tv, and follow me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV, Olivia at RichardsOlivia, and ShowRatings at ShowRatingsTV. Until next time, thanks for listening.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.